Interested in getting a palette knife to up your wet on wet oil painting palette game and not sure which one to get? In this video right here, we're going to take a look at the Bob Ross large and detailed palette knife coming at you right now. Hey, it's me, it's Wild, coming at you for my Creative Control playlist, where I bring you the best tips, tricks, and even product reviews, just like in this video right here. If this is your first time here, consider helping a bro out and hitting that subscribe button and ticking that bell so you know when my videos go live for you. Today I got a fun little treat. We're going to be reviewing the Bob Ross large palette knife and the Bob Ross detailed palette knife. This is a number 10 and this is a number 5. A lot of you guys are pretty familiar with these. If you've watched any of Bob Ross on Twitch or YouTube, you see him use these two knives quite often. I always get asked, are these knives worth paying up for? Well, let's take a look and review them really quick to see if they would fit exactly what you need for your painting adventure. Let's start off with the Bob Ross number 10. This is also known as just the large palette knife. This is what you would use if you're gonna put on anything like a big old mountain or rocks or cliffs. This covers a lot of space. It's got a lot of open-ended side here for you to scrape and get your colors on the edge of your knife. So this way you can create nice little rolls if you have to do anything like creating a mountain that's gonna take up an entire canvas side, or if you're just gonna use the edge to create snow breaks as you slowly glide across the mountain. It's also very good for putting in little extra details when you have to scratch in when you use this spaded side for things like branches that are in the distance or twigs, anything like that. It's a great little tool that helps you all the time. And you're probably gonna use the large knife a lot if you're doing wet on wet styled oil paintings. The Bob Ross detailed palette knife, or the number 5 palette knife, is a great tool to have for things that are hard to reach in certain spots. For example, if you're making a few mountains and one of the background mountains is in the distance and needs a shadow or highlight side that's very small, this knife is perfect for it because it's half the size of the large palette knife. Or perhaps you need some detail areas where you have water laying on the edge of a bank and you have to scratch it in. Again, this is a perfect tool. It fills in a plethora of different needs that you will use for your oil painting. Everything from skies, for clouds that you want to add extra thick details on, to things like rivers that you want to scratch in water, or rocks that you want to add a little bit of detail on. This is actually a really good knife and I highly recommend it. Now let's go over why I recommend the Bob Ross palette knives really quick. We're just going to take a look at the large because it's the same attributes across both. When you look at the Bob Ross palette knife, one of the best things you're going to notice about it is the actual handle. It comes to a contour shape that fits perfectly in the hand. It's a nice little cylinder shape that opens up wider at the bottom that feels really good as you need to hold it. And it's actually got a very, very thick handle, which makes it perfect for when you have to hold it very gingerly as you're gonna glide across your mountain there to allow the snow to break. A lot of other palette knives that you've seen have square ends, and yeah, they feel fine and they're comfortable and everything like that, but they're not as contoured for the hand when you have to hold them. And that's what makes the Bob Ross palette knife so nice. If you're gonna use your knife day in and day out, or if you're gonna do a lot of painting, this round shape actually helps out a bunch. Positive number 2 about this palette knife, what makes it so fun and fascinating and works great for a myriad of details that you need to put in, is the ability for it to bend and move with your canvas or palette. This makes it very easy for when you have to take up paint and scrape it down to mix colors or maybe make them a little bit more marbly for your canvas, or when you're applying things on your canvas and you need it to actually bend and scrape across. It's nice when you have the flexibility within the knife here. A lot of other knives are actually too stiff, and you'll be surprised at how much you can allow them to work across your canvas because that rigidness in the knife is too resistant of when you're trying to get things like paint breaks to work, or it might not actually work the best for putting in details on rocks or in water. So make sure if you don't go with the Bob Ross palette knife, at least get something that has a lot of bend within it. It's gonna pay off a lot when you're using one of these tools. An additional good point to make about this palette knife is the fact that it's well balanced for the whole entire knife. Now, it's not completely balanced, but it will pretty much hold within your fingers just like that. It's balanced almost perfectly, which helps out a lot for when you have to let the knife do pretty much all of the work for you. If you've ever heard Bob Ross, you basically go across your canvas a lot of the times with your palette knife like a whisper. And the reason he's able to do that is because this knife is so well balanced, you let the weight of the balance of the knife work. When you add paint on the edge of the rolls, it's gonna become a little top heavy. So when you take your knife across, it's all weighing onto the canvas and allows you to gingerly glide across. That's probably why a lot of you have a lot of troubles. Your palette knife may not be balanced, and the Bob Ross knife is extremely well balanced. Let's talk about something I actually don't like about the Bob Ross palette knife. One of my biggest complaints about this knife is I actually deem it a professional knife. It's legitimately a knife. This edge right here is extremely sharp, which makes it very hard to use if you're a beginning painter out there. It actually comes to a straight cut at the end of the knife, which makes sense. It's a palette knife, it's supposed to do that. But a lot of other palette knives actually have like a curved end on them, which I find extremely easier if you're starting out to apply things like snow on top of a mountain. My actual detail knife that I use a lot of the time when I'm painting on Twitch is this so-called knife. It has a rounded edge. It is not sharp on the end at all. And I highly recommend this knife if you're starting out. And that's the only gripe I have with the Bob Ross palette knife is it's a professional knife. You need to have a little bit of experience if you want to use this big boy knife. Same thing with the detail knife. It's very sharp at these ends, so when you're trying to cut paint on, you're literally cutting it on. And you have to have all the experience to go with it as you come across gingerly. If you're just starting out, I would probably recommend this knife. I'll put all the links in the description below. Check out the show notes so you can see all these different ones. Since we talked about another palette knife, let's touch on this really quick. This is Michael's Artist Loft palette knife, and it's extremely cheap and it works well. If you're starting off, I highly recommend picking it up. I will put a link in the description below so you can check it out. I use this knife all the time, and it's the small detail knife. It's perfect for working out all the things you need on a mountain, river, lakes, rocks, cliffs, anything like that. And like I said before, the reason it's so much better than the Bob Ross palette knife, at least for beginners, is it has that rounded edge right here that makes it so easy. When you're letting snow break off, it literally just falls right off the knife. Yes, it requires a little bit more requires a little bit more paint to create snow, but I actually kind of like a lot of thick texture on a painting, and I do recommend picking this up. If you don't have a lot of money, this is a great place to start because the Bob Ross palette knives range somewhere between about 15 to 25 USD, depending on where you can find it up. And I do think that they're worth the extra money, but this palette knife, you can pick it up at Michael's for about $3, and sometimes it's even on sale for even less. And I do recommend this because this is a beautiful knife. Now, if you can't get the Bob Ross palette knives on Amazon, or perhaps you don't have a Michael's near you where you can get the more affordable Artist Loft knife, I actually started out using a different palette knife that I really love, and I'll put a link in the description below. It was this knife right here. Unfortunately, I lost it. But it's a great knife, and I used it all the time. Unfortunately, rather than just getting a replacement for it, I just got my Bob Ross kit, which came with my palette knives, and I kind of just upgraded from there. And I do love it. It works just like the Bob Ross knife and the Artist Loft knife combined. It's not as sharp. It's got a very nice handle. It bends at the middle, and it's got a wide opening to cover a lot of canvas space. So I recommend picking up that knife if you don't have any of the other options out there. Just a quick bro tip for all you guys out there: if you do pick up any of these palette knives, whether it be the large or the detail knife, and when you use them to paint and you're all done, make sure you clean them immediately. I like to use baby wipes, and I like to clean off all the metal. If not, make sure you use something like lukewarm water and Dawn dish soap. That'll eat away at all the oils, and make sure you dry them, because if you let these things crust up with hard paint on them, it's actually gonna get bumps on the edge of the knife, and it's gonna interfere with your painting abilities when trying to create things like paint breaks or water or clips. So make sure you always clean all of your gear when you're done. Hey, hopefully I got you really excited about owning one or all of these palette knives that I mentioned here. The The Bob Ross ones are great. They are a little more expensive. I'll put a link in the description below. If you can't afford these or you can't get them, make sure you check out the other ones that I mentioned earlier in the video. Also, I'll put a link in the description below. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. I do truly appreciate it. And if you like this video, go ahead and leave a comment. It really does help a bro out. And if there's anything else that you would like me to review, make sure you let me know in the comment below. If you want to go above and beyond, make sure to follow me on my Patreon. And thank you all to all the people that have already subbed there already. And don't forget to follow me on my social media. Hey, I am Wild for Games, and I will catch you guys in the next painting video coming up real soon. Take care. Peace.